It's starting. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Prepping for a Purpose. I have a great panel tonight, at least I think, and we're going to kind of do an outline of what the show is all going to be about for the coming weeks ahead. So, anyways, we'll start off with introductions, and I'll start with you, Justin. Go ahead.
My name is Justin Wolf. My YouTube channel is Career Wolf. I talk about all kinds of good stuff as far as bushcraft related, survival, and just outdoor skills. I'm also the owner and founder of Wolf Customs, which is a leather group, and recently started making knives. But been an outdoorsman my entire life, so this should be a lot of fun.
All right, thanks, Justin. Did we lose Larry? Are you there, Larry?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Larry, why don't you go ahead and give yourself a nice intro?
Well, my name's Larry Roberts. My YouTube channel is Larry Roberts, and I try to do a lot of survival and bushcraft type stuff on my channel. I like to try a lot of new stuff. I'm recently been trying to dig deep into some real primitive skills like making natural cordage and making traps from that natural cordage. And basically my goal in life is to be able to walk out back without a knife or anything and be able to survive and live off the land. I've got a long ways to go, but I'm really practicing hard.
All right, thanks, Larry. Appreciate you being on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Lee Ralph.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to go Travis next. Anyway, hi, my name's Lee Ralph, and I have a YouTube page, Lee Ralph, and a Facebook page, Pathway to Self-Reliance. The Lee Ralph page is bushcrafting survival, and the Pathway to Self-Reliance has that, but also I want to gear towards tips on just becoming more self-reliant. And I want to thank Terry for getting me into bushcrafting.
All right, thanks for being on the show tonight, Lee. Travis Henry.
Hey, I'm Travis Henry. I've got the YouTube channel Survive Without, and basically I try to focus on things of the nature of basically my name, Survive Without. I like learning new things and trying to stick with it. I've been stuck on plants for quite some time because I kind of feel like they are a big key to surviving.
All right, thank you very much. And for the viewers, be sure to check out these guys' YouTube channels. A lot of great knowledge there amongst everybody. And I don't think I've said, but I am your host, Terry Vaughter. You can check out my YouTube page at Outdoorsman's Paradise. There's a lot of bushcraft related things and a lot of nonsense too. So, yeah. All right, I think tonight we're going to start off talking about why we prepare. So, sorry about that. Why we prepare and what we're preparing for. So, and it can be just anything. I mean, maybe you live out in California, there's a lot of earthquakes or fires or any other kind of natural disaster. So, anyhow, Travis Henry's a dork. Anyways, so Justin, not too busy with the little one there. What are you preparing for? Lee, turn off your phone.
What am I preparing for?
What are you prepping for in general? I mean, you know, obviously there's more than one scenario. You know, but what are some of the things that you do prepare for?
You know, that's a good question. I don't really know what I'm prepping for. I guess that I look at it as in life we are prepared for a lot of different things. You know, whether it be our vehicle having a flat tire, or our vehicle needing to go 100 miles versus 10 miles, and so on and so forth. So I just kind of look at life, just like that. I try to be prepared for anything that comes up. You know, I want to, I mean, we've all been into a situation where the lights go out or the electricity goes out, or the air conditioner stops working or the heater stops working. So basically, it's not one of those things where I'm trying to prepare for, any set event. It's basically just being prepared for anything that life throws at me.
I will totally agree with that. And 99% of the time, you're not going to be prepared for what happens. It seems
No,
like.
not at all. I mean, most of the time, I mean, we all know that you prepare for one thing, and Murphy's Law is going to jump in and say that, well, tough shit, this is going to happen. You know what I mean? So,
You must have watched Viet Normbo today also.
no, not yet. I haven't.
No, he put out a video today that is exactly what you just said
Oh,
in a
really?
nutshell.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, he has several on that. That's actually where I was going to go in just a minute. He talks about that, being prepared for all things, and not just one thing in general.
Well, it's
Exactly.
true. I mean, we get caught up in only being prepared for, say like a natural catastrophe or, war or something like that, and we forget about the other things. Like, like what if your house catches on fire? You know what I mean? How are you prepared to deal with your house just catching on fire? Or, in the case of, Katrina or something like that. I mean, you have to be willing to prepare yourself for all different situations, not just one.
Exactly. Totally agree. I mean, it could, like you said, the smallest thing is a flat tire. Are you prepared to that? You have a jack in your car. You got a spare tire. You got a lug wrench. So people think prepper, or some people think preppers are crazy, but they don't understand that we're not just talking about the world coming to an end or aliens or zombies or whatever. People think.
Well, everybody needs to understand that everybody in the world is a prepper to a certain extent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Um,
Amen.
everybody has more than one roll of toilet paper in their house, right? Okay, so that is you preparing for the fact that you're going to need more than one toilet paper roll. You have more than one ibuprofen because you get more than one headache. Everybody is a prepper in their own right mind. It's just a matter of what it is that you prepare for.
Exactly. Larry, you're kind of up there where the population isn't as strong as maybe in our area. I'm not sure how far you are to big cities, but I think Minnesota maybe has a smaller population than maybe some of the areas that we're used to. Uh, what kind of things do you prepare yourself for living out there in the boonies?
Well, for us, it's not quite as bad as where you guys live, but we do have quite a few tornadoes. So I prepare for, or I want to try to be prepared for tornadoes. But really, the main thing for me is winter. Winter is quite brutal up here, and I don't have enough wood right now. But even if the power goes out, or if our propane doesn't flow, or something like that, it's not it's not you can last 2 days. You can last about 6 or 8 hours. I mean, when it's 30, 40 below and the wind's howling outside 40 miles an hour, you have to really know what's going on. So I have a generator that luckily my house came wired for a generator, but it was kind of half-assed wired. So I wired a plug for my generator, and so now if I can run my corn stove, I can run my fireplace, I can run a lot of things off of just a generator. I can run and it'll be fine. But mostly for me, I'm prepping for the cold or some unknown thing that might happen when I'm in the city, which I live Like today, I had to commute 85 miles to work one way. So for me, it's prepping for the cold or prepping to get home. I want to be able to get home because short of a bank collapse or them trying to take my house, if I'm at home, I can survive.
Exactly. And you have I don't know how to describe it, a unique thing that you carry in your EDC when you go to work. At least I believe you carry it as an EDC. And it's a way to get water. You want to explain that?
Yeah, it's kind of a goofy name, but I believe it's called a seal cock, and basically it's a four-way wrench that in the city they have hose bibs on the outside of office buildings, most of them. But in order to stop vandalism or in order to stop people from using their water without their permission, they take the handle off of the hose bib. And there's always a hex key or some sort of a wrench fitting on that hose bib. And this is a four-way wrench that I can go up to basically the four most common sizes of those hose bibs and get myself some fresh water. Because even if the water stops flowing, even if the power goes off in the city where I work, I mean, I'm next to 30 plus story high rises, and there's always going to be water way up high up there, unless it's weeks or months later or something like that, which is going to be pretty rare. But within the first week or so, there's always going to be water pressure up high, and you should be able to get water out of there. The only thing is if you're not familiar with construction, you definitely don't want to go to the fire sprinkler hose bib, because that's some nasty water.
Yeah, that water's been in the pipes for possibly years, I suppose. I suppose they flush them once in a while, but it's not enough.
Well, even if they flush them, it's a different type of pipe than our copper pipe, so it's just nothing but grease and oil, and it smells like rotten eggs, and I wouldn't want to taste it for sure.
Right, I don't blame you. Travis, you've been kind of quiet over there. You got something to throw in there, buddy?
Oh, not a whole lot. When I say I'm a prepper, I guess I kind of look at it a little bit differently. I live in a small town, and where I work, I could probably walk to my house in 10 minutes from pretty much anywhere I am, so I don't really worry about that too much. But the thing that I guess I kind of prep for is the unknowns. Um, and the way I prep may be slightly different than some people. Because a lot of people I know, they prep by, well, basically with money. And what I mean by that is they prep by bringing a lot of stuff into their home, you know, thinking that that's definitely where they're going to be when a situation happens. And the way I try to prep is with knowledge, because I always feel like you're never going to be without that, at least if something was to happen. Because I may be on the road, between here, halfway between here and in Arkansas. Who knows when it's going to happen? And all my stuff that I have, at my house is not going to be with me. Um, just, just not going to happen.
No, I
I've seen many times.
Is it just me, or did Travis start sounding like Star Wars movie?
he did.
I was wondering if it was us, and I didn't know who it was.
I think
Okay.
Travis brought up a really good point, though. He was saying that he preps with knowledge, and I mean that's a very good point. Because without that, I mean, your gear and everything else is useless. You know what I mean? And not
Right.
only, but let's just say for a second that you have 2 months of water, or you have 2 months of food stored up, or something like that. Well, a situation occurs. Don't you want to be proactive in trying to secure more water or more food before you actually dip into your reserve? In my thinking,
Absolutely.
the answer is yes. what water I have, I want to save until there is absolutely no other way for me to get water. What food I have, I want to save until there's absolutely no other way for me to secure food. So without that knowledge that Travis was talking about, I think you're dead in the water no matter what.
I
I totally
absolutely
agree,
agree. I
and
think Travis
that's
had
one of the
a,
things.
you
We're stepping on one there.
sorry, Lee.
No, I
Sorry,
totally
Lee,
agree
go
with you,
ahead.
Justin, and
Or
that's
Terry.
one of the things that we're going to get into later on down the road. Maybe not tonight. Tonight we're just going to try to do an outline, but you guys bring those topics up is great. I love it. So don't stop saying what you're saying. It's great. So anyhow, I forgot where it was. Oh, more about the whole prepping and things. A lot of people don't realize that it's more than just gathering, food and having a stockpile of food and water and all the gear in the world, and because I'll tell you something right now, um, all that gear and all that food and everything will not do you any good if you don't prepare your mind and your body first. If something happens and you panic, uh, you're not going to be able to handle it. So one of the things you need to work on is your mind and your body. And I've really gotten into my, working on my body here lately. I've started to eat better and actually been doing a lot of walking in the mornings and the evenings, and exercising and things. So, Larry, go ahead. You had something to say there?
A really good point. I mean, that's totally his mindset and my mindset are pretty close right on there. I want to be able to, in my opinion, the only way that you can absolutely prepare for whatever comes your way is to gain as much knowledge as you absolutely can. You can't prep for anything because 9 times out of 10 or 99% of the time, whatever's going to happen is something you didn't prep for. So all you can do is practice and gain knowledge to the best of your ability. And if you have the knowledge to completely live without any of your things that you're normally used to living with, I think then you'll be fine. And as far as your mental toughness and stuff like that, you're absolutely right. You need to be mentally tough. You need to put yourself in that mindset. I know I love my wife dearly, and I know for a fact she's not mentally tough to survive if something bad were to happen for more than about a week or so. I mean, we joke, and she says, "You can eat me," I mean, you have to be prepared to want to live, whether if you don't have your latte machine or whatever, you have to be in the mindset that it's okay that life's going to go on without modern conveniences, and that it doesn't necessarily mean you have to eat maggots for breakfast. It just means you need to man up and just survive. I don't know. That's just all I think, I guess.
Oh, that's great. That's a great input. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. David Robertson. You want to give yourself a little intro there, David?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm David Robertson from American Warning TV. Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Talk about all kinds of stuff, politics, world events, economics, etc., things that are probably the cause of the overall effect of your need to prep. So that's what I do.
All right. Well, to bring you up to speed, the first topic that we covered was what are we prepping for? So I would love to get your input on that.
Well, that's a big, humongous question. I would say that it's several things. One, I think ultimately what we're looking at here is a domino effect. One thing's going to lead into another, so I think pinning it down to a single thing is, or I should say, can be dangerous. Tracking the trends, we're looking at an economic problem that will turn into a monetary problem which will turn into a war problem, which will turn into a supply problem, which will turn into a chaos problem, which will turn into our problem. Anywhere in between, people are going to fall off. They're going to be affected by this in any way, shape, or form. A lot of the lower middle class and the lower class will be directly affected as soon as monetary policy falters. Because here's the thing, and this is one thing that I would stress to everybody is you cannot, and by the way, I'm not the only one who says this. Judges, lawyers, doctors, economists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are saying do not. If your long-term goal is to depend on the government, and when we're talking about long-term, we're not talking about 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We're talking about within the next several. If that's your long-term goal, then you're doing it wrong because they're not going to be able to provide that. Here's why. The dollar is dying. Inflation is increasing something fierce. In 5 years, just to kind of give you an idea, in 5 years, beef has increased in price over 88%. Now, this is before the proverbial death of the dollar. The situation going on in Syria, of course, some of you have probably heard about Russia getting angry about this, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to spiral. It's because our money is based on oil, not on gold or silver. That's a short version, if that answers your question.
Absolutely. We were going anywhere from having to change a flat tire to your next bowel movement in the bathroom. You know, you've always got an extra roll of toilet paper on hand. You've always got a jack and a lug wrench in the vehicle. So, but and then of course, everybody else had those ideas too. So, like Larry had a great point. He lives out in the middle of nowhere where they get like 10 feet of snow a night or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, think about that.
Things you can prep for.
I think everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. Like in Larry's position, let's say things happen exactly like Igor Panarin from the University of Moscow predicts that it will. Larry's going to be dealing with Russians long before somebody like me. I mean,
how does that make you feel, Larry?
Makes me feel like I have almost enough ammo.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the reality of the situation. I mean, depending on where you are geographically speaking, your needs, the impact of what's happening is going to affect you different. If you live in an area, for instance, that is rich in oil, you're probably going to have some resources a little bit longer than places that don't. Look at California, for instance, that is going through a drought right now. I mean, they're rationing water. I mean, there are fights over water. This is insane. Of course, mainstream media doesn't talk about it a whole lot. But their resource, their problem, their issue right now is water. So people who have the ability to accumulate water overnight, know how to find water or whatever. I mean, the circumstance is different. I mean, every single part of the country is going to be affected by this differently. And then as, of course, you migrate from one section to another, you're going to have to acclimate yourself into those new conditions as you're walking into them. And that's, I think, something a lot of people don't pay attention to. I mean, a lot of people, I've seen, like, trying to remember who it was. God, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is that they were in, like, Georgia, I think is what it was, and their plan was to go to the Rocky Mountains. Okay, that's a good plan, I guess, as long as you are prepared for ultimately what you're going to be facing when you get to Colorado, and anywhere in between, for that matter.
Yep.
I think it's important to understand too that just because you're thinking about things like this and preparing for things like this, it's just like what Justin said. For me or whatever, this stuff is just common sense. It's just like going to the store and buying an extra case of beer. I mean, you want to make sure that you're prepared. I mean, you don't want to run out. So, I mean, I was teasing there for a second. Sorry. Anyway, it's not that you're thinking that the world is going to end, and maybe it will, but you're not hoping that it's going to end. You are just preparing for basically the inevitable. The inevitable is you're going to run out of dish soap, so you need to buy a couple extra things of dish soap. The inevitable, no society has lasted forever. There has never been, since the beginning of time, a society that's lasted forever. There's always been something that has affected them to the point where they were no longer a civilization. So did they think? Were they prepared that that was going to happen? No. As far as I know, no civilization was ever prepared for the end of their civilization. And just because you're thinking about it, and just because you're interested in maybe preserving your way of life, or at least preserving your lives or those of your loved ones, doesn't mean you're some weirdo or some psycho or something. I think sometimes we get, preppers or survivalists or whatever you want to put a label on, you get a bad name or get a bad rap. We're not a bunch of weirdos. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's just common sense.
Well, you look at the cartoons. You look at different cartoons and everything else as you're growing up. What does the squirrel always do to prepare itself for the winter? You know what I mean? Take a look at nature. Nature itself prepares for situations, whether it be, the wintertime, summertime, whatever. I mean, nature does it. So why is it any different for mankind to do it?
Right. Why are we labeled as nut jobs just because we're actually doing what our ancestors have done for thousands and millions of years or whatever?
200,000 years. 200,000 years.
See, and then that's one of the things that I think we need to pay attention to, because here's a couple of little factoids here, and Larry's absolutely right. There has yet to be a republic that has ever lasted. There's yet to be a republic that hasn't destroyed itself. We're looking at a situation where our entire economy is based on something that's called a fiat currency. And this idea of fiat currencies go back all the way to Rome. And actually before then, if we really want to dig into it. But it's a currency that's not based on anything. It's not gold money, it's not silver money, it's not a physical asset, it's paper money. It's a representation of money. And there has yet to be a fiat currency that has yet to fail and rip its entire economy along with it. And when we look at who is preparing, the irony is that there is this idea that, the wackos or the weirdos are the ones who are preparing because of, crazy shows like Doomsday Preppers or whatever. But when we really look into who is preparing, we're seeing doctors and lawyers and former CIA and military and etc. I mean, people who are in the know are the ones who are also preparing. So they're just not as vocal about it. So yeah, this one person who gets this idea that, hey, I need to prepare for the zombie apocalypse, so I'm going to prepare for it. Well, somebody finds entertainment value in that and throws it on TV. Then the ignorant masses look at this and say all preppers are preparing for zombie apocalypse. Meanwhile, the smart ones are over here on the side thinking the same thing, like, what is this dude all about? This is insane. But rightfully so, continuing on the path. And that's the one thing that I would stress to anybody who is preparing. Don't be ashamed of what you're doing, because you know what? Ready.gov, government agencies, the Red Cross, FEMA, etc., are all telling people to prepare. And the longer that you can prepare for, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, the better off you are going to be. And that's government for you. And it's not a crazy thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. Point in case, Katrina, the snowfall, the blackouts, the rolling blackouts in New York, Greensburg, the earthquake, drought, name a natural disaster or a man-made disaster, war, the diseases and stuff like that coming in because of a lack of screening, for crying out loud. Whatever it is, and you'd be silly not to, as Larry said, prepare for at least a few days. If you don't know what you're going to have for dinner, or at least have the ability to make dinner out of what's in your cabinet a week from now, then you're doing it wrong.
That's a very good point, and the whole deal about media making us look crazy because of what they show, and wanting to have zombie preppers and all that. And obviously, that's not what this show is going to be about. So it's a very good point. But what is this buzzing? So anyhow, one of the other things we were talking about, David, was prepping your mind and your body. Because, like I was saying, you can have all the gear in the world, but it's not going to do any good if you're not uh, mindfully set or physically set.
It's very true. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Justin and I have talked about that numerous times now, where, in a situation that you're, hey, sweetheart, when you're in a situation that, you are forced to in a position where you're forced to survive, even the way you eat's going to change, and a lot of the things that we eat or consume or whatever, it changes things. Your calorie intake, when you're not sitting on your ass playing on the computer all day, your calorie needs, for instance, are going to change when you're using a machete all day. I mean, just whatever the situation is. I don't know. Yeah, totally prep your mind and your body, and even the way you eat. You know. And
Well,
by
it's
the way, just to throw this out there, just so we're all on the same page, the dumbest thing in the world to do is to save a bunch of food you don't eat every day.
For sure. For sure. I'm going to eat this and lentil beans, even though I've never tried them before, and I'm going to have this. Yeah.
Well, your body is very important. Travis is going on a hike in October, and it's something that I've been trying to get my body prepared for because, like Travis knows, and I think David knows, but I injured my leg, about a year or so ago, and it hasn't been the same ever since. Um, you know, it's more of in the growing muscle area where any extraneous exercises or anything else, it feels like it pulls it. So, let's say that right now that I am forced to leave my home and go on a strenuous march or hike or anything like that, I would be I, I would be a casualty. I mean, that's the reality of it. I wouldn't be able to march or hike the same as a healthy individual. So that is something that I've been trying to get my leg in shape for, and I think it's slowly getting there, but it's definitely not where I want it to be. But I mean, just think about that for a second. Are you actually in physical shape to where you can actually do that strenuous work?
Wow. Thank you. I was just about to do that, Davis.
I don't think that was
guy's
me.
I totally agree. No, it was Lee. I totally agree with you there, Justin. Here lately, I've been doing some hiking, well, walking uh, around the neighborhood, and doing a couple miles here and there. I think yesterday I did like 5 miles, but I hiked in the morning and then again in the afternoon. And it's all because when I, you know, go somewhere else to go camping with people, there's, for me, it's a long hike because I'm used to where I go just pulling up and throwing crap out of the vehicle. I have a very short walk, and when I go with other people, I realize, oh man, this kind of sucks. And it's not really that it's a long ways to go. It's just something you're not used to. So
It's
I've
like out the driveway. Man, I'm tired of walking.
exactly. Maybe not the driveway. Okay, it's not that bad. But
Like, dude, where's my
I'm
car?
taking my
I
wife
started
back.
walking, but the wife walks with me in the evenings, and I told her I asked her, I said, do you think that the neighbors would look at as funny if I carried my pack while we do this? You know, because I'm going to. I don't care what they think, but you know, she was like, "Well, I hope they don't call the cops or something." In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, "Well, I kind of hope that they do because why not? I'm not doing anything wrong, you know." So yeah.
Well, Terry, when me and my wife go on a walk, I always throw on my backpack. And, you know, I mean, most of you guys know that it's a Tamale 2 rucksack. So, I mean, it's a very military bag. And when we go on our walks, I stuff it completely full. I mean, with stuff that I absolutely do not need. Stuff that would support, you know, all three of us, you know, for several days. And oftentimes I'll throw my kid on my shoulders on as well. And yes, your neighbors look at you like you're a complete psychopath. The passing cars stop and look at you like you're a complete psychopath. But it's one of those things where I don't give a shit what anybody thinks of me, because if you don't affect me directly, I don't care about you. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Well, I'm afraid to load it up to the point, you know, to where, you know, a bunch of crap that I don't normally carry, and it just to make it heavier to give me a better workout. I understand that part, but I don't think the wife would understand carrying it back.
you gotta start out slow, man.
Pull a
I'm
wagon
taking
tonight.
I'm taking
Well,
my wife on a backpacking trip this weekend, and we're gonna see. I'm gonna try to carry everything, but it's only gonna be a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles. But she used to do a lot of packing when she was in the Navy, but she does not understand why I think that's fun. So just go light, try to take as little as you can, and go from there, I guess. There's a lot that you
Right.
take that you don't use, and I'm struggling with that myself.
well,
That's
there's
a
a
big thing
difference
I'm
between
working on now
hiking on
too.
pavement, you know, and then hiking on dirt as well. You know, I mean, you can hike
Oh,
on pavement.
absolutely.
You can hike on pavement for miles and miles and miles. Step
Yep.
off the pavement into the grass and see how quickly your calves wear down, or you know, your hips and everything else. I mean, it's a big difference. You know, and where I live, it's pretty damn flat. You know what I mean? So, like these hikes that Travis likes to go on, man, I'll be honest with you, the one that he's got coming up, I'm nervous about, because if I can get my leg in shape, I'm still nervous about it because I'm afraid that he's going to have to surround me with crime scene tape afterwards. You know, so because I mean, you're talking
Draw your
about going
body out on
up.
the
I
ground with
mean,
some
up
chalk.
steep inclines and everything else. We're used to just
Travis,
walking.
what the hell is wrong with you?
Well, Travis, what's your input on this? Because I mean, I've hiked with you, and you're man, you're a go. I believe you could have carried Justin and I out with all our gear on your back. The way you're going that day. This guy will run down the trail half a mile just to get his camera set up to watch you coming walking toward him. So,
Oh.
Travis, how do you stay in shape like that, Travis?
Well, my job is a big part of it. Doing construction, it honestly really is. Because like my tool belt that I wear every day, it weighs about 20 pounds, something around there, with loaded with screws and all my tools in it. But when I've got time, I always like to hike a trail near here. I've actually got a few of them that I do. One of them is kind of like a big hill, and I'll just hike down it and then hike back up of it. And it's actually Coronado Heights. It has a castle up there. It's said to be the furthest north that Coronado had made it. And another place that I do has rolling hills, and it has a little few rocks. It's like the only rocks in the area, and it's kind of a neat little place that I go to even study plants. And another one I do is a flat hike that I do is an old railroad bed. Basically, they've turned the rail into a trail, which is kind of cool.
You
But
telling me your 20-pound tool belt gets you in shape for your 80-pound pack I've seen you carry.
Hey, when you're climbing up and down a ladder all day, it'll wear
You'd
on
be
you.
surprised. You'd be surprised,
See,
man.
that's the difference right there, is the ladders and everything else, and doing it all day long.
I climb a ladder all day long, and it sucks. There's nothing make your legs work out than climbing a ladder all day.
Right. So, well, we kind of talked about the body thing. What are some of your guys' thoughts on preparing your mind for different situations, different scenarios?
I think that when Justin and David and us had our discussion, we kind of talked about that a little bit when we had that nighttime discussion, and kind of talked about, like you had said earlier about food. When I took my class, the one thing that I had kind of learned from that is the things that I was eating. It kind of changed my habit. Like when I came back from the class, I went and had it was a double quarter pounder from McDonald's, and yeah, I couldn't even eat it. I took one bite and spit it out. It tastes like cardboard. That's how much my taste buds had changed from taking the class, because I was just eating nothing but greens and a little bit of meat.
So how many times have you eaten McDonald's since that time? Yeah.
Hey, I haven't had McDonald's, but I ain't gonna lie, I have had pizza.
It's funny how fast your taste buds recovered.
They will. They will. But I eat a
Something-
salad for lunch at work every day now. So
Something that I want each and every one of you guys to check out is something that I had to go through when I was with the sheriff's department and everything else. It's called the bulletproof mindset. And I'm sure that you can probably find free audio on this, and just listen to it in your time, in your spare time, and everything else. Basically, as a nutshell, it's what it is it talks about all the psychological changes that people go through, when they're put in high stress situations. And it also talks about, trying to what is your greatest fear in life, and then embracing that fear, trying to realize that fear is going to come true. You know what I mean? Whether or not it is up for debate, but trying to accept that it is going to come true, whether it does or doesn't. But it's a really good thing to listen to. Now, is it going to actually change your mindset and everything else? Of course not. I mean, really, no one truly knows how they're going to react to anything until they're thrown into it. You know what I mean? And there's even if you've been in high stress situations, like some people are in combat and everything else, whereas other people have been shot at. I've been shot at. David has been shot at. I've had numerous people attack me with the intent of taking my life and everything else. But my mindset still may not be where I want it to be if there is some sort of major event that happens. You know what I mean? My mindset may be strong when it comes to dealing with a personal attack, whereas it may not be strong when it comes to the reality that my whole family might suffer because of whatever event has fallen on us and everything else. So I mean, the mind is huge. You may think to yourself that your mind is strong, but you don't know until it actually happens.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent for anything knowledge-based. I think that having information can do a lot for you. They say that knowledge is power, and a lot of people make the mistake of just focusing on one discipline. Somebody may just know all about diseases, for instance, but they don't focus on anything else, and that's dangerous, because here's the thing: if you're presented I mean, in life, any given situation is going to be different from the one before. And the more information that you have to navigate these situations, the better off you are. So if you're more versed in all kinds of different stuff, perhaps a little bit of carpentry, a little bit of machinery, a little bit of how to filter water, or a little bit of how to work on something in the house, or maybe how to research, or whatever the situation is. The more diverse you are in that aspect, the better off you are. And then when you take this element to question even your conclusions, then you're even more well off. And then you focus in on the idea itself, and then you're better off in the long run. I think that some of the most dangerous things that we can do is to limit ourselves either in ideology or in discipline, for the long run. I mean, you're talking about survival. I mean, I personally don't know anybody who has had to live for however many years surviving without the power grid. It's going to take a lot of mental fortitude, if you will, to be able to for any of us. I mean, even if you are a seasoned veteran, I mean, by the time you're a year or two in without a grid, without a power source, without going to the supermarket, I mean, it's going to get stressful. It's going to get hard, and to be mentally tough is it's critical.
Totally.
And one of the things is how do you prepare yourself? How do you prepare your mind for things like that? That's the real question. I mean, I know what I've been through personally in life, but some people haven't been through things like that. You know what I mean? So for the people that live an average, ordinary life, that have never been in a high-stress situation, how do those people prepare their minds for a stressful situation?
Totally. And here's a great scenario, or situation, not a scenario, that most people are not prepared for. And I don't know if you can ever get 100% prepared for this, but let's say you have to bug out and you have to leave a loved one behind, because the weakest link, could be a loved one. And I don't mean, your wife or your kids or anything like that. I mean, obviously, I know everybody on this panel would bring theirs, but the elderly, maybe grandma's in a nursing home. It's things like that you've got to think about. That, are you ready to do that? Can you mentally prepare yourself to have to do that? Or friends, and neighbors, that you just can't bring along with you. You may never see these people again. It's things like that that will really mess with a person's mind, I would think.
These are conversations that everybody should already have with their loved ones and with their friends and everything else. My loved ones know, my wife and my daughter know that I would never, under any circumstances, ever leave them behind. But they also know that if the situation arises, that I will do everything in my power to give them an extra 30 seconds. You know what I mean? That
Exactly.
they know that they have to leave. They may not ever see me again, but what I'm doing might allow them to survive for 30 more minutes. You know what I mean? Or on the flip side of that coin, my mother or my mother and father-in-law, would I leave them behind? If it meant taking care of my wife and my child, yes. And they know that. And they that because that's what they would want me to do. You see? And that's the same when it goes for my friends. Like David and I, we have talked about this our whole lives, where he knows that if something happens, he can leave. Okay? I know that if something happens, I'm to leave. We're not to wait around and put ourselves in danger waiting on the other person. And
Exactly.
these are conversations that we have to have with our loved ones.
Yeah, and I think to kind of really detail that and just call it what it is, and let's be honest here for a second. This is the final conversation ahead of time. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, and that's what Justin's talking about. I mean, so Justin can leave, and it's because we've already said our goodbyes. He knows that he's my buddy, he's my chum. You know, there's no question about that. He knows how I feel about him. So you know, there's absolutely no need for regret. And here's the thing: that regret is what's going to hold you back. That regret, that doubt, that any of that, that's what's going to get you hurt. And that's what's going to maybe even get him hurt, or somebody else, a family member, or something like that. In a situation where you were talking about life or death, you don't have time to sit there and mull over details and factoids and blah, 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 blah. You should already be thinking it and be able to react. And that's the hardest part. Somebody pulls a gun. Are you going to sit there and go, wow, I read somewhere that I should probably duck. No, I should probably roll and then I'll fight. You know, I mean, you don't think like that. That's insane. Somebody pulls a gun, you move. I mean, and if you don't, I mean, you might get shot, and maybe you have to return fire or whatever it is. You know, whatever the circumstance, you have to be able to move and not worry about all of this other stuff. I mean, and it's like Justin said, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. These conversations already need to be had, so that way it's not a question when it happens. I mean, that's a part of prepping.
Well put, guys. I mean, that's. I can't explain it any better than that. That's perfect. I know I picked the right panel for this.
Well, you know, and if you haven't had these conversations with your family, friends, and loved ones, and everything else, I encourage you guys to do it. You know, some of them may look at you a little strange. You know what I mean, and think that you're Looney Tunes or whatever. But like David said, you're having that final conversation prematurely, and it's important. It really is. It's very important.
I agree, and I didn't even think about the whole regret thing. If you have it beforehand, you won't have any regrets then later if the situation does arise. It's a good idea.
Well, and I'll tell you what, it's kind of a problem now, though. It's going to be great when the situation happens. And I'm going to explain this to you. And then, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't a bad thing, but it can be kind of humorous, and Justin gets annoyed from it from time to time. But like every once in a while, there's I get into a mode where I'm like, man, you know what? I haven't talked to Justin in a while. Uh-oh. Hey, Justin, is everything cool? You know, and it's really kind of almost anal retentive, but it's silly because he yells at me and then I'm okay, but no, I mean, and I kid you, it's silly. I mean, I recognize that it's silly, and I can't explain it myself, but I'm so worried about the end result. You know, if something happens, you know, they need to know how I feel now, and for me that branches back into something that happened in my childhood, but. You know, I had this real big problem with allowing anybody to leave without them knowing exactly how I feel, and that's just in case something does happen. And it could be anything, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a survival situation. You know, one of us die in a car wreck next week. I mean, car wrecks happen. Heart attacks, strokes, I mean, all kinds of different stuff. I mean, it's going to be good for your overall well-being anyway, so you might as well just start having these conversations and you know, get it out of the way, because regret's going to hold you down like a ton of bricks.
Get it out there and make it normal and natural, so you know it's not as big of a deal to deal with when you have to deal with it. So.
Well, the other problem is a lot of times men, especially us guys, we don't think that it's important to share how we feel about our loved ones, or what our friends mean to us and everything else. That's BS. You know, you should always tell your friends what they mean to you and how much you've appreciated them and everything else. That way you don't have these regrets when something happens. Because it's not a matter of if something's going to happen, guys. It's a matter of when it happens. everybody's going to lose their friends. You may go before I go, you know, or like, okay, David and Travis were very close friends, okay? Something might happen to David or Travis tomorrow. You know what I mean? I will have, I will miss them and I will mourn them, but I won't have any regrets because they know how I feel about them. Does that make sense? And
Absolutely.
those, you just because you're a guy, you should never let that whole I'm a man, I don't need to tell you how I feel, get in between you and somebody else, because that's bullshit.
Shit, I'll be the
Absolutely.
first one
That's
crying
ridiculous.
with you. What
I'll
was
be
that,
honest
Larry?
with. That's 100%. I agree with you, Justin. I tell you what, my son left. My son left last night to go back home from the Air Force. And I tell you what, I cried myself to sleep last night. I gave him a big old hug, and I mean, I don't, if you can be a man, and I mean, part of being a man is taking care of people you love and taking care of your family, and being a man is not being cold-hearted. That's not being a man at all. Being a man is letting people know you love them and that you'll protect them and that you'll be there for them. And there's a lot of things about being a man, but being cold-hearted is not one of them. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with telling people you love them or telling another guy you love him. Or my son's 23, I give him a kiss on the forehead, and tell him I love him. And I mean, I got no shame in that at all.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. That is 100% true. And that's another great way to get your mind prepared. I mean, that's what it's all
I think
about.
it makes you stronger, actually. I mean, when you really think about it, the person sitting next to you, if you have that kind of relationship where you're not afraid to throw a brother a hug or, open up to him or something like that, man, that is a bond. Now, double-edged sword, obviously, when that person's gone, it's going to hurt a lot more, but you're going to fight twice as hard to make sure that the person next to you remains. So, I mean, I don't see
Absolutely.
that as a fault. I see that as a positive. So, and that's also, too, about getting your mind right, getting your body right, your relationships right, your life right. And don't kid yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing. Do not put this off. Do not put any of this off, honestly. The sooner you can get into the proper mindset, learning what you need to learn, practicing what you need to practice, the better off you're going to be. And evidence comes in this every single week. Every single week I report on nothing. Every single week all we're doing is seeing advancements. Every single week. It's insane. And it's depressing at times, but it's insane. It's just, I don't know. There are naysayers, but you know what? It's the 80-20 rule. I care not what the 80% say, and the 20% are all on board. So that's how I look at that.
Sometimes I wonder if there really is a 20%, though. I mean, I don't find as many people like us that I thought that I might. So, but I guess 20% is a small number when you're talking 20 out of 100 people. So
It really is, and you're looking at you're looking at an 80-20 rule, and then an 80-20 rule on that actual 20. So, you've got 20% of that 80%, or sorry, 20% of that original 20%. You're looking at about 3 to 4%, and those are your, diehard fighters, etc., etc. The rest of that 20% are those who support those diehard fighters. Support the ideas. Maybe they're not all on the same deal, same page, or whatever. And then the 80% are just the ignorant masses who are probably going to perish, and so be it. But it's funny because I had a friend of mine kind of put some things, because ladies and gentlemen, I'm literally at my wits' ends when it comes to the ignorant masses. I'm done. And I don't mean to be cold. I'm so done with the morons in this country and in the world. But anyway, so I had a friend kind of put it into perspective for me. He said, okay, well, think about all of your friends. Think about all the people that you associate with. Are the majority of your friends that you would want next to you? I was like, well, yeah, maybe. Well, okay, are at least 20% of the people that you associate with? I said, well, absolutely. She goes, well, there's your 20%. And I'm like, dang, and it's not about the overall country. I mean, it's 20% of the people you associate with. Are 20% of the people you associate with those people you want next to you? That's powerful when you think about it that way, because then the numbers are definitely there.
All right. Hey, Larry, I know was only wanting to be on for an hour, so I want to give him the floor before he goes and thank him for being on. So, uh, Larry, you got any final thoughts before you got to take off there, bud?
Well, that's pretty hard to follow David on that stuff. I mean, I could sit here and listen to him talk all night long. I appreciate being able to be on this panel with some real good friends. I consider all you guys real good friends, and I appreciate it. Don't really have anything else to add except 4 a.m. comes real early, so I need to get to bed.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you being on, Larry. It really meant a lot to me to have you on. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to check out his channel. It's just Larry Roberts on YouTube. Kind of hard to mess up the spelling. But he's got some great bushcraft, woodcraft videos and survival videos, and he's just a great guy. Love you, Larry.
All right, man. Love you guys too. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, brother.
Good night, buddy.
Good to see you too. Good night.
And I tell you what, everybody that hasn't checked out Larry's, they really need to check out Larry's channel, because Larry has been busting his ass. I mean, he has been doing a heck of a job with trying to learn primitive skills and everything else. I mean, he's making me feel very lazy, and I appreciate the effort that he has been putting into his videos.
I couldn't agree more. He really has. I called him last night and he was like, let's make this quick. I got to go make a video. And I don't even know what he was making the video on, but he was in a big hurry to get outside the whole time. And we were, practicing the hangout thing. I was trying to help him along. And I'm watching him on video, and the whole time he's trying to work the computer, but he keeps looking out the window. And I finally had to ask him, I said, is there somebody outside? Do you need me to call 911 for you or what, man? Because he was sure looking hard out there. Anyhow. Whew. Travis, you've been awful quiet, buddy. What do you got to add to this?
I don't have a whole lot to add. I guess I have one concern with some people I would like to talk about, I guess. And that has to do with, you see a lot of people when they're prepping, they buy these huge canisters of seeds. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but what I would like to say about that is, have you ever even grown anything? Or when you do plant these seeds in the ground, when you get your fruit from these seeds, do you know how to take these seeds, and gather the seeds from the fruit properly, store them, and then to replant them for next season?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And you know what? I can tell you right now, Travis, I'd be one of those people that, even though that my family grew up with gardens and everything else, I never cared for a garden too much. So that's one of those things that, you know what, I'm going to write that down right now, because I need to do more research in that. I really do. Because a lot of those vegetables and everything else, I wouldn't know how to properly store them. I wouldn't know how to properly, how many inches to actually space the seeds, how deep to bury the seeds, and so on and so forth. That's a very good point.
And not only that, but when you said they bring this big can of seeds, I'm assuming you're meaning like a coffee can or something.
Well, you can buy them that way.
But what kind of plant seeds are in there? Because like a tomato seed, man, there'd be a few million in the size of a coffee can. There's no way you need that many.
I guess I'm talking about, I've seen for sale quite a few places, different prepping sites, where they have cans of seeds in the can of different, huge variety of different vegetables, basically.
Oh, so it's probably like a coffee can that's like full of individual packets or something of all different various
Right.
types of fruit
Yeah,
and
I've
stuff.
got one. It's got all kinds of different seeds in it. So yeah.
Well,
Do they
that makes
have?
more sense.
Do they come, David? Since you have one, do they actually come with any type of instructions on just how deep to plant the seeds? You know, the spacing. You know, things like that. What time of year to plant?
The one I have does have some suggestions on it, but Travis is right in the idea that you should probably know what you're doing before you get into that mode. Um, you know, well, yeah, I mean that's and that's really easy to do, by the way. All you need is a small little patch of ground in the back of your yard or on the side of your house or something like that, and just to experiment. But uh, in fact, I had my entire backyard a couple of years ago. It's nothing but a garden, but
Well,
it's. Go ahead.
well, but that's not necessarily true neither, though. I mean, different soil. You know what I mean? Like if you have a soil base that's mainly clay and stuff like that, you're not going to. A lot of things isn't going to grow there.
Right.
So, I mean, you need to know what soil you have and everything else. So that's a really good point, Travis. I'm glad you brought that up. I'll
Actually,
be honest, I feel very stupid now thinking about that.
No, I mean, here's the other flip side to this. Let's say you do have this canister of seeds. I know we've talked about before, basically, if something was to happen, community would be the way to go. Let's say you have the seeds, somebody in your community knows how to use them. It's still not a bad thing at all. I mean,
well, I agree with what you're saying, but I still see a need to be self-reliant on a lot of things because there's a chance that that person you're relying on may not be there. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
but I do know on the back of a seed packet, like they come in small packets, well, about the size of my phone. You know, you can buy a packet of seeds, whatever, tomatoes or whatever. But to answer Justin's questions, on the back of those, yes, there is a directions to tell you how far apart to plant them, how far apart to make your rows, what time of year, whether they need full sun or some shade, and all of that. So, like I said, those kind of packages, they do have instruction on each individual one. So, and it tell you how many days it is before it'll before you can harvest fruit or vegetables. So, I'd be interested in seeing that sometime, David. If we have or if you want to be on the show again, we are going to do some show and tell stuff later. So that'd be pretty neat. 'Cause I've never seen that in the. Well, if you don't mind, can you share the information where you can find something like that?
Right now.
Well,
All
where
right.
can you find something like that? I mean,
There's all kinds of sites. You could look up for, uh, look up like prepping seeds or survival seeds, survival food bank, different things like that. I mean, there's all kinds. I mean, I can go see if I can grab mine. What you
deal.
want
Like
today?
I said, we can do that at another date. But I've never seen them, and I'm surprised because I've always looking at the different gear and bushcraft stuff on the web. I'm surprised I've never ran across anything like that. But then again, I've put my own together, and I've never had a need to really look for anything like that. So
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's kind of overkill, but because there is so much. But uh, I mean, you think about it though. I mean, you get into a position, you think you're okay, so you start planting some food, and then something happens, you have to leave that area. You're gonna have to replant. I mean, it makes sense that there's so many there because you might have to abandon your crop. So, um, I don't know. There's always that cause and effect scenario at play in my head. So you think about all the different areas of crops you're going to be dumping, or maybe you're going to start something because you're going to migrate through and you're going to avoid certain weather. So you're going to be coming back in the spring, so you know that these things are going to be grown by the time you get back, and then I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios at play here, and having some is always better than having none. Regardless, because it's like you guys were talking about. Somebody will know what to do with them, somebody won't. Maybe you can barter with them. I can think of all kinds of things that would be of a benefit in a barter situation. There's always something, and it's not the priority off the bat. Obviously, your priority is water, food, shelter, and then as you can start to acquire from there. I mean, so if you're watching this for the first time and you're saying to yourself, "Man, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know where I'm supposed to start." Start there and then just slowly start acquiring from there. It doesn't have to be some huge endeavor.
I agree. I grew up farming and always had a garden, and I still try to have a small garden once in a while, still to this day, still in the farming scene as well. But I will tell you guys one thing: hybrid seeds will not. I don't know how to put it. They won't reproduce. So, you go buy a cornfield, okay? That crop corn that's in there, and I'm talking a huge crop corn, not sweet corn, field corn. The seeds that come out of that, or the kernels, will not reproduce. You can grow a plant, but it won't grow any fruit on it. It's just the way that they have engineered them today is that it won't work. So be mindful of that when you do buy seeds, that you don't buy certain hybrids. And I'll try to look that up on what hybrids it is exactly. But
that's a really good point. You want heritage seeds, or there's another word for them. They're heritage seeds or heirloom seeds. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize that. They think, well, everything that has a seed will grow. Well, it might grow, but you're not going to get anything out of it. So, yeah. Yeehaw. Well, what's next? I'm sorry, did you say something, Travis?
I was going to say that I actually don't grow. I don't have a garden, and that's something that I need to work on. And I guess that's somewhat the reason why I kind of have focused slightly on wild edibles, or because I feel like that there's always going to be something out there growing, basically. Nature's already providing the food for you. You just have to go find it, which usually isn't that hard, actually.
No, I have food growing out in my driveway that most people would say is a weed, and it's plantain, and it has so many uses.
I was going to go someplace completely different with that, but I'm glad that you said plantain before I had an opportunity to open up my mouth.
What happened?
Do what?
What I miss? Sorry, my
no, it's just you were like, oh, I have got this this thing growing out in my front yard, and then you started going down that road. I was working on a joke.
Well, I keep that growing in the backyard.
Right. Wolf's jumping off.
Kind of looks that way. We'll probably wrap it up here in a few anyway. Actually, 15 minutes. Can you hang out 15 minutes, Wolf?
Rock on, man.
All right, that'll give us a nice round even number to finish off on. So, anyhow.
That it's kind of funny though. I was sitting there this whole time. I'm thinking about all those, the garden and everything else. And all I can think of is growing up as a kid, you know how everybody has flower gardens around their house and everything else? Well, we didn't have flower gardens. We had freaking vegetable gardens and everything else. And that's how I spent my summers, was de-weeding those gardens and everything else. I'm sure David remembers quite well those gardens and all that good stuff. And that's why to this day I don't have a garden. I got burnt out on them. And every year my wife and I talk about we need to get back into it because I don't know a lot about it now, because it was one of those things like put in the back of my mind and just never thought much about it. And I'm also the same guy that preaches about how important it is to be well-rounded. You know what I mean? Be a jack of all trades, master of none. And here I am putting something like a garden at the back burner when I should be bumping that up and really diving into it again.
Well, you
Yep,
can't possibly know everything, that's for sure.
oh,
No,
absolutely not. And if you ever
no,
run
not
into
at all.
anybody that says that they do know everything about a certain subject, turn and run as fast as you can.
Yeah. No, you're never going to know everything, but I do think it's important to try to be as well-rounded as you possibly can. Learn as much as you can, as often as you can.
I agree. I've actually been buying a lot of books lately and reading up on things. One of the books I bought was Kansas Mushrooms, and
Oh,
I've
here we
been
go.
no. Anyways, I've been a morel mushroom hunter since I was probably old enough to tromp through the woods, you know. And I thought there was only two kinds of mushrooms in Kansas that you could eat, which is the morel and the elephant ear, beefsteak, whatever, the red mushroom. They got several different names for that one. But anyways, I got this book, and it is specifically Kansas mushrooms. There are a lot of mushrooms in Kansas that you can eat that I've always been told were poisonous. It's just a matter of what part of the mushroom you eat and when you harvest that mushroom. I mean, it's a big, thick book. I was amazed. But I also have a lot of little foldable um, field guides. As a matter of fact, I've sent Travis a couple. Dude, them things are awesome. I don't remember which ones did I send you, Travis?
Uh, now I got a wild edible one, and you got I just can't remember what the other one was at the moment.
I
I know
can't
it's
either.
specific to Kansas. One of them is.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember what they are, but they're cool and they're laminated. They're great for a bug out bag or even to
Yeah.
take out just camping for the weekend. Like I said, they're laminated. You're not going to ruin them, and they're a heavy laminate, and they fold up in your pocket.
So anywhere in your book does it talk about the stoned ape theory, Terry?
Well, I haven't gotten that far in the book. There are some gray pages in there. Maybe that's what it is. But speaking of books, we'll put a little promo out there for David. Being as how I was reading his book right before the show started on on his idea of prepping and the list, which I recommend the book, not just for the prepping because I said so, because I think it's something that everyone needs to read.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, by the way. There is a list of prepping stuff, things that you might consider getting at the back of the book. So there's prepping stuff in there as well. But more importantly, the reason for prepping, in my opinion, a lot of reasons for it. And by the way, we've been talking in the internal chat here a little bit. I dropped some links that I think people are going to want to check out after the program that more or less kind of pretty much say that what I've been talking about for a long time is pretty close to accurate. Anyway, so no, thank you for that. Yeah, here I got. I'm gonna have to use a different lower third for it, but
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
see, it's easier than holding it. Well, I don't have to do it. I just thought it'd be easier.
No, you go ahead and put the American Warning lower third up there for now. It's fine.
All right. That's what you're looking for right there. If you're interested in the book, Reloaded and American Warning, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Google Play. If you've got one of those cool little tablet things that I don't have.
Exactly. And it's a great book, and it's well worth the money. And it's not an expensive book. I mean, I don't mean it that way. It's a great book. It's only like a couple dollars on the digital, even, right, David?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not much, and that was the thing, because I didn't do it for the money, obviously. I'm doing it for the information, and basically the stuff that, I mean, I wish I got a lot more money off of it, actually, but it is what it is. The information, though, is sound. There's years of research wrapped up in there, and um, I don't know, a lot more reasons than I could ever want on anybody as to why you should be prepping. So,
Ladies and
I've
gentlemen, I
actually
will
found
tell you
it.
from experience that David there does his research, and he researches. I don't think the man sleeps, to be honest. And he's one of the smartest men I've ever met and most intellectual. So,
well, thank you.
and I know Justin will say the same thing because I've heard him say it. So, and Travis.
Well, I've grown up with him, so
I'm sorry, you poor bastard.
I think is what people don't quite understand is the things that you're going to be reading in this book. David and I was talking about when we were in high school. Okay, that was what 90. What we graduated, what 97, 96.
Yeah, we first started talking about it probably about I want to say about 94, 95.
So put that in perspective for a second. The things that we were talking about way back then, and let me say, and by we, I mean David, okay? David was the one that seen all this crap happening. At the time, the only thing I cared about was girls and beer. But for some reason, David had the ability to see these things happening, okay? And here we are, 2014, and we're seeing all this crap start to come to fruition. And I'll be honest with you, it is scary as hell.
Yeah, because Justin's got to hear some of the darker sides. So you're going to read this book, it's going to be information, but the cause and effect. I work off of something called the 3-rule method, which I ended up, I wouldn't say perfecting, but rolling with in '99. That allows me to get really, really close on some of these things. And some of the darker stuff Justin's got to hear, and I don't provide that in the book, obviously, because I think it would just scare everybody to death. But no, and it's funny because it's documented. That's the weirdest part of the whole thing. I mean, it's documented. I've been talking about this stuff for a long time, and I was smart enough back then to write it down. And it's coming true, man. But it's based on cycles, and I provide all that in the book too. So I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say, and you guys can tell me. I don't think that the book's overly complicated. I think it's really easy to get. I think it's really easy to understand, really easy to follow for the most part.
It was definitely an easy read, and I actually picked a bad time to read it. I read it. I started reading it probably 2 or 3 hours after my son was born, and it wasn't the most comfortable feeling in the world after experiencing that. But I had it read before we left the hospital, so yeah. Go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you, bud.
And the other thing is another thing that people don't understand is the tears that have gone into this book. And by the tears, I mean people don't understand the battles that Dave has had to fight through the years for the things that he's believed and the things that he has tried to share with the rest of us, okay? And there was even a time when I started to question David and was like, man, are you sure? Are you crazy? Do we need to talk about this? You know what I mean? Now, it was only a very short period of time because he put me right back into check. But people don't know that. People don't see what happened, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever it is. Whereas I did. I've seen the blood, I've seen the sweat, and I've seen the tears that have gone into his research. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's
because they're not popular ideas.
very important that people read this book and listen to what David has to say. Um, Go to his channel, listen to him. You know what I mean? He knows what he's talking about. And for the people that still doubt him to this day, just wait. Okay, that's all you got to do. He's even said that before. Just wait.
Yeah, and you know, and guys, I really appreciate the support on all that. And Justin's right. I mean, these are not popular ideas. These ideas suck. And I mean, he says I was lucky enough to be able to see it. To me, it's a blessing and a curse. Uh, the end results, there's a positive. I think that people who do prep and who are prepared are going to be able to see it, and they're going to see an amazing period of growth and prosperity. But those who aren't are going to be caught in the crossfire. It's you know, just like one of the things that we were talking about here in the internal chat room. Former CIA contractor speaks out on Syria, says it's suicide. We're not going to come out of this alive. And he talks about how this situation, what happens in Syria, is going to spiral out of control, turning into World War III. Well, I've been talking about Syria, Russia, World War III for a long time, and Russia's a big part of it. And hey, what's in the news now? Russia constantly pressing our borders, infringing on our airspace. We're dealing with sanctions. I mean, this is like everything that we don't want, and it's right at our door, and it's insane. Anyway, the point is that it's in there, and I encourage everybody to read it, and if you do, you'll be glad you did, because at the very least, and once again, you don't have to agree with a single thing in it, but then at that point, you can't say that somebody didn't tell you. So.
And if you don't like the book, you're gonna love the fuzzy history section. I read it all the time, man. 'Cause I can't remember all these little quotes and stuff, but some of them are so crazy I had to look them up, and sure enough,
Yeah, see, I ain't lying to you.
No way.
That's the beauty of it.
Like,
Yeah,
there's
that's what the
more
history.
buffalo on the prairie today than there was during the Civil War, and they act like they're freaking going extinct.
What was
Get
that?
it?
What was that, Terry?
I've got the book right here. It says, where did the buffalo go? Nowhere. Today, more buffalo roam on the prairie of the American Midwest than before the Civil War. In Oklahoma, they are considered pests. Speechless. See what I'm saying? I had no idea.
Yeah.
And that might be a Final Jeopardy question sometime, and you'll know it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's weird stuff. I don't know. I'm a huge student of history, because I know history repeats itself, and you know, just little factoids that you see, you know, throughout history it's always fun. It's like the funniest one ever in history is Hitler's train was called America, and there was a unit in the army who actually used to have the swastika as their symbol. But because of World War II, the symbol had to get changed, and Hitler changed the name of his train.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna. I think we're gonna wrap this up at the bottom of the hour. So hour and a half's not bad anyway. So we'll do some final thoughts, and we'll start with Travis. He's just been too quiet, so I'm gonna pick on him.
Well, yeah, pretty good start for your show. I really do. Discussed a lot of topics that I think a lot of people needed to hear, honestly. And I can't wait to get back out and train some more. I'm actually hoping to see you guys soon.
All right, we appreciate you having you on here, Travis, and ladies and gentlemen, check Travis out on YouTube. His YouTube channel is Survive Without, and he's got some great, awesome videos. So, Justin, you got any final thoughts, bud?
You know, if I had to say anything, I would say that irregardless of what people think is going to happen, could happen, won't happen, whatever, I would say that they need to look past themselves and look at the ones around them that they care most about. What steps would they take to ensure the safety of those people, whether it be their kids, their mom, their brother, their sister, or whatever. And I think oftentimes you're going to find that those people would go to great measures and great lengths to protect their loved ones. So by taking basic steps, making sure that you have a little bit extra food, a little bit extra water, these things, they're not as crazy as what people think. Basically, all you're doing is looking after your family and your friends and your loved ones, including.
Thanks. Yep. Totally agree. And thank you very much for being on the show, Justin. And ladies and gentlemen, be sure to check him out on YouTube, Greer Wolf. And also, he is quite the leather, well, I hate to say master because I don't believe anybody's a master, but he's a leather guru. Check him out on wolfcustoms.com. That's WOLFE customs.com. So, David, final thoughts?
Practice like you play. Whatever you do, think, react, train like you're going to do it. And be ready at all times to put your money where your mouth is, and it'll go with your gut. Trust your instincts. For most people. For some people.
For the
people's instincts are horrible.
Amen.
No, but thank you for having me on the program. I appreciate that, and thanks everybody for the support on everything. And you guys rock.
Well, thanks for getting on the show. By the way, if it wasn't for David and him having me on his show, then I don't know if I would have got mine off the ground. And David, you've been a great big help, and I really appreciate it. David designed the lower third of the banner down there, just so everybody knows, and I think it's pretty badass. It's a lot better than what I sent him than what I had started.
Well, and I'll also say this too, just so we can do, guys, ladies and gentlemen, whatever. The key here is information, and if you can start your own program, distribute the information. I mean, if you have something to say, the worst thing that you can do is hold it to yourself. I mean, tell the world, stand up, create your soapbox. That's what this is for. Spread the word, spread the information. It's important. So
everybody needs to remember that you're living in a time when you have the ability to speak out. This is the first time in history that the normal, everyday Joe Blow has a voice. Prior to this, our media was controlled. We take advantage of your internet. You know what I mean? Step up, speak your mind. That's the only way anything's ever going to change.
Amen. I totally agree. So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you watching, and I hope you tune in every Wednesday night. And as Justin just said, and David as well, if you can, start your own show. You don't even have to start a show. Just make some videos and post them up. Network, Facebook, all kinds of things. You have a freedom here. You know, it's called the First Amendment. Use it. Okay. So, anyways, thanks everybody, my panel, for being on the show, and make sure everybody checks them out on YouTube. So, thank you, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Blah, 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 blah. And it says it's still stopping, so maybe we're still recording, David.
It says live on my end. All right, guys. Good night.
Night, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.